Greetings. Today we are going to change out some throttle shaft seals on Honda Goldwing 4-cylinders. That'd be the GL1000, GL1100, GL1200. Goldwing's carburetors are basically two pairs. There's a pair that runs the left side of the engine and a pair that runs the right side of the engine. The plenum splits down the middle. Each pair has a carburetor that has only one seal and a carburetor that has two seals. So I'm going to show you how to do either one of them. Both of them, actually. We'll start with this one because it's easier and quicker. Anyways, okay, first thing we want to do is mark this throttle butterfly to the side facing up to the top so you know to put it in correctly when it comes time to put it in. This is a number 2 JIS, Japanese Industrial Standard, Phillips bit. It's different than an American Phillips. These fit these screws much better than an American Phillips would. If you use American Phillips, you might round out the screws. With this JIS number 2, I've never rounded out the screws. But the screws are in there. I mean, they're fairly decently tight to start off with. So what you kind of want to do is give it a little snap to break it loose initially, and then it should come out pretty easy. So we'll give her just a little bit of snap, and there she goes. Okay. You can get these JIS bits pretty much anywhere. Any car parts store is going to probably have them. Okay, I'll give her a little snap. Okay. Beautiful. They might feel like they're coming out a little bit hard to start off with, and that's because at the factory what they did to stop the screws from coming out was they took and peened over this end of the screw. When you're pulling the screw out, you're reforming that peen back into the part of the screw, so you might feel a little bit of tension there, but don't worry too much. Just make sure you don't strip out the head. You'll be in good shape. Okay, so now we want to get this butterfly out of here. We're going to turn it just a hair past center because there's only one spot across this bore where it'll slide out. And you'll find that spot by moving her a little bit until you get to the nice sweet spot, and voila. Okay, that comes out, it goes right there. Now we have the throttle shaft. What we're going to do is we're going to pull that straight out, like so. Throttle shaft is going to have two washers. It's going to have a metal washer, and it's going to have, oh, get out of there, buggy. Well, it's going to have this fiber washer, which I can't get out of there because it's stuck. Ah, there she goes. Okay, fiber washer like that. I always like to line my parts up in the way they came apart just so that I can remember to go back in. But when in doubt, take pictures. You know, like before you take this apart, take a picture of where this is so you know to put it back when it's time. Okay, so now we've got that out. What we have here is a little brass cup, and that holds the seal in. The seal is just a little piece of felt. So what we're going to do is we're going to get that seal, or what's left of it, out of there. Come on, baby. Okay, we'll put him there. And now, to get that cup out, what I've done is I took a cheesy junky screwdriver and I just bent the end of it so that it will fit underneath the lip of this cup, and then very gently work it sideways and the cup will come out. Alright, so there you have your cup. Now we're going to need our new seal. Yeah, check out the difference between the new seal and the old seal. What we do is we'll take this cup and we're going to put the seal into the inside edge of the cup, like that. Okay? Now we'll take and put that back in here, like so. And then you just want to make that cup flush with the carb body. So what I use is the flat of this chisel. You can use anything flat. I mean, it's the same principle. And we'll just lay that on there, and feel of it to make sure it goes down straight. Yeah, there we go. That's good. Okay, now we're going to take a little dielectric grease and we're just going to put a little bit on our screwdriver here, and I'm going to run around the inside of this seal with this dielectric grease. Now what that does is it helps lubricate the seal against the throttle shaft, because you don't want that throttle shaft binding. Okay, so now we got the seal in. We're going to put this all back together, but before I put it together, I always like to take just a little bit of dielectric, rub it between my fingers, and then rub it on that fiber washer. A little lubrication never hurt. We'll put that on, and we'll put our metal washer on. Now when we go to put this in, we do not want to twist it as it goes in. We want to put it in straight, because that'll minimize the chance of messing with the seal. See, because these edges of this plate, if you're twisting, they can tear up the seal. If you go straight in, it minimizes that risk. Also, you want to make sure that your butterfly slides in and out of here easily, which it does. But sometimes they won't, because sometimes there will be a little burr from where that screw came out on the inside of here, and that burr will stop this from moving freely. Now this has to move freely in there, because when you go to tighten it up, it's going to center itself in the bore so it seals. If you do have an issue with that, you can use you can put a little sandpaper in there, grind it with a little sandpaper, or maybe sandpaper on the end of your screwdriver, or even one of those fingernail filing boards that they have. You can put that in there and do it, or an old points file from Points Type Ignition. But this one we don't have to worry about, so we're good. So do not twist it until it's all the way in. Okay, so we're going to go straight in like so. And it's giving me a little resistance because I've got, this end is sealed now, so there's an air bubble in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to twist this around a little by like that, which also helps to seat the seal and the shaft together. If you give her a little twist like that. Yeah, there's still a little bit of pressure there, but no big deal. Okay, now we'll take this and we'll put her back in. Try and get this in as straight as you... Oops, come here, you. Come out of there. Okay, try that again. Try to get this in as straight as you can, because if it's cocked sideways, it's not going to line up with those two holes. You want to get it down there as straight as you can and as close to being dead on the holes as you can. Okay, like that. Okay, and I'm pretty close. You see how I'm using the butterfly itself. By turning this, the butterfly itself is centering itself into the holes. Now, to put the screws back in, before we do that, we're going to have to use some, I'm going to use Loctite glue to hold it in there. I used to use the Loctite paste, but I ran out of that, so now I'm just using the regular Loctite. And you want to run your fingernail into the screw, in the grooves of the screw, to clean out those grooves. You want them to be nice and clean. See, get all that nasty stuff off of there so that the Loctite can do its thing and keep your motorcycle from eating a carburetor screw, which would be bad. Okay. Let's get a tiny little bit of Loctite here. It doesn't take much. And another nice thing about magnetic tip screwdrivers is that the screw sets on them nicer. It's so much easier to get this back down in where it goes if you got a magnetic tip screwdriver. Okay, and that one started. Now you don't want to go, you want to go snug and then back off a quarter turn before you put the other screw in, because you don't want to lock that plate in a cocked position before you get both screws in. It makes the second screw really tough to get in, and I know this from experience. So we'll clean this off. Look at that. You know that you got nasty stuff off of there. Look at that nasty stuff. Makes the Loctite not work very good. Okay. Give us a little touch of Loctite. Just a little bit. There we go. Very nice. And we'll put him back in. Snug, and then back off a quarter turn. Okay, now for the final adjustment, we want to make sure that is sealing. You don't see any gap around the butterfly to the shaft, and then you want to push in, push pressure to make sure you're in as far as you're going to go, and then we just tighten her up the last quarter turn. And voila, you're in business. You will have no more air leaks coming through there, and those air leaks can cause high idle, they can cause erratic idle, make it hard for you to synchronize your carburetors. There's a lot of things that can be caused by those felt seals leaking air, and 99% of them out there do, because you're talking bikes from the 80s. So this stuff doesn't, obviously these things don't last forever. It's just a crunchy, and that's really crunchy piece of felt. Okay, for this one, the spring one, this one happens to have the accelerator pump mechanism on it too. The other one, the other side doesn't, but either way, it's very similar. First we're going to have to take this little clip off to get the accelerator pump mechanism out. So we'll do that. Again, take pictures of this, so when it comes time to put it together, that you'll know. Because it's very easy when you get into the midst of this to forget how it goes. And that's a trouble. Okay, so now we got that out of the way. Now this has rotated itself open against this spring, but that's okay, no problem. Now on this side, you have to be very careful with this. Here we go. This here is what synchronizes you to the other carburetor. If you bend this, it's going to make synchronizing the two carburetors together, because they set like that. They go together. So that's going to make it very hard to synchronize the two carburetors together if you bend this. So what I always do before I take this nut off is I'll grab the bracket on the flat side of the bracket there, like so. Okay, so there's no pressure on this arm part, it's all on the base, and you want to make sure that this is not in the closed position, because if you have it to the closed position, it's possible you can twist that shaft as you're tightening or loosening this. You can twist that shaft and it'll make it dang near impossible to put back together again. Be very careful. These aren't on very tight, so it's not a real big deal, but it is something to think about. Okay. And you'll see once I get this nut and lock washer off that this shaft has two flats on it. You want to make sure that you put this back on the way it came off. Instead of you put it on that way, it's not going to line up with the other carburetor. But I mean, it'll still go on that way, but when it goes time to put the two carburetors back together, you'll be hosed and you'll have to take it back apart again and do it again. So make sure you get that right. Okay, underneath here we've got a little E-clip, and that just comes out. Get behind it with your little screwdriver or whatever and pull that out. Okay, and then behind that we've got Again, our fiber washer and our metal washer. Okay. Now we're going to do the same thing with the other carburetor. And we're going to mark the top, mark up. And then we're going to take these screws out. There we go. Oops. I'm hurrying a little bit because I'm sure you guys don't want to sit here for an hour and watch me, but feel free to take your time. This is not something that you should really hurry through. I'm only doing it because I've done these a million times, so it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, take your time. Don't bend anything. Don't break anything. Do your darndest not to strip these out, and if you use that number 2 JIS, you most likely won't strip them out. Okay, now we're going to get this butterfly out. Out of there, baby. And there she goes. Just lay that there. Okay, now we're going to let this screw unwind, or the spring unwind. So now we have no tension on the spring, and we're just going to pull straight out with the shaft, like so. This shaft does not have a metal washer on it. It just has 2 of these fibers, unlike the other one. Okay, now we're back down to where we were with the other carburetor, and we're gonna get him. Oops, get him out of the way. We're gonna peel this bad boy out of there. Sometimes a little pick works for that. I mean, I just use my little screwdriver because I got my little screwdriver, but a pick will work for it too. I mean, you know, look at this. Look at how black and nasty, and it's darn near crunchy. You know, compare that to one of my O-rings. You know, it's like night and day. Okay, now we'll very carefully pry this bad boy out. Oh, and there she goes. Now, if you do end up damaging this rim a little bit, or putting it out or making it bent up a little, what you can do is take a 1/4-inch drive socket that just barely fits inside of it, slip it over the socket, and then with your little hammer just gently peen it back into size, back to where it should be. It's very rare to have that happen. These come out fairly easy. If you go very slow and you got a tool like this, you take your time, it shouldn't be a problem. Okay, so we'll put this guy inside there. Oh, isn't that beautiful, huh? And we'll put him down there, like so. And I'll get my flat edge. Perfect. I'll get the other one quick. Yeah, and this one's, I mean, it's almost, it's just disintegrating. Okay. A little bit of debris in there. Okay, so we'll get that. Oh, there we go. Oh yeah, and if stuff rolls off the table, that can be bad too, so try not to let stuff roll off the table. You don't want to be losing any of these tiny parts, because the only way you're going to get a replacement is to buy a parts carburetor, and you know, who wants to hassle with that if you don't have to. I'll put this guy back in here like so. There we go. Open it like that. And yeah, nice, very nice. Okay, so we'll put the carburetor like that, oriented up towards the top. This is our top again, like we had to take it apart. I'm gonna take a little, can't forget this, little dielectric on both of these seals. like so. Loop them up nice. If you want, you could probably even put dielectric down inside that brass bushing that's in there that the throttle shaft runs on too. Okay, got our seals all lubricated up. I'm going to do a tiny little bit of dielectric on this one. Make sure she's nice and lubricated. You can even put a little bit on the throttle shaft. Like so. Beautiful. Okay, now we're going to line up so that this goes onto there where it's supposed to, and we're going to go straight in. Do not turn the shaft. Just go straight in, like so. Alright. Beautiful. And it's nice and smooth. Okay. So because this is on tension, spring tension, it's pulling it that way, I'm going to put this side back together again before we put the plate back in, because that would be a lot easier. So we got our fiber. We got our metal washer. He goes on. We got our fiber with a little dielectric on it, and that goes on. We're going to push it in, and that's where our little clip goes. Put our clip on. Oh my God, I lost the clip. Oh, there it is. Thank you, Lord. See, you don't want to do that if it's at all possible, but these things do happen. So we're going to put our clip on. I'm going to make sure it locks in place by pushing it on. Okay. Naughty clip. Move it back and forth a few times. Make sure she's nice and lubricated. Feels good. So now it's time to... Okay, we got that in the right position. And we want to go straight down in. Oh, they went too far. Pull her up a little bit. Yeah, see how that doesn't even... It won't even close unless you got it real close to being where it's supposed to be. And sometimes it's a bugger to get this... There she goes. She's close. And when you get it close enough to get it like that, you can also go in here with your tiny screwdriver and you can move the throttle butterfly around just a little bit. Okay. Whoops. Okay, we're pretty good. Now we're going to want to clean these just like we cleaned the other side. Ugh, look at that. I doubt the Loctite would have worked with that there. You know, and that's after the carburetor has been soaked in carburetor acid. One of these days I'll get myself an ultrasonic cleaner, but until then I'm stuck with old school. Which works just fine. I mean, carburetor acid works great. But it's tough on... It's really tough on the rubber seals that they use on Makunis. These are Keyens, so it's not any big deal because these are all fiber washer, but or felt seals. But on the Makuni rubber seals, oh yeah, that carb acid can do a number on them. Okay, we snug and then back a quarter turn, and now this guy. Just put your fingernail, I'm putting my fingernail in it, just like pushing pressure against it with the rag as I'm unscrewing the screw. And basically all it's doing is it's cleaning out the threads as the screw backs itself out of the rag. So there we go. A little dab of that. Okay. And we're going to put him in there. Now sometimes when you go to start these screws, they won't want to start right in. So you kind of give her a little bit of down pressure to get it started, and then they go. Okay, quarter, back off, half, back off, quarter turn. Now we want to make sure that there's no gap on this side, so we're going to let this spring pull the shaft that way. And all we want to make sure on this one is that it's nice tight seal around the edges, and you can see that there are no gaps there. It's in good shape, and you want to hold this closed while you tighten it up the last quarter turn. Snug it up like so, like that, and then test her a couple times. Look at that. Nice. Okay, and we'll put this guy back on. He's going to go like so, and then the lock washer, and then a nut. Sometimes these nuts can be tough to get going on there straight the first time. Do not force that nut. In fact, don't force anything. Carburetors are delicate. You don't want to force anything on them. And of course, grab her by the flat like that. Make sure this is not in the closed position because you don't want to mess it up, and you can if you put too much force on it. So make sure that's partially open, and just tighten her back up. Like so. Beautiful. If you really want to, you could put a little blue Loctite on that thread too. It's not that big of a deal, but you could if you want. A little extra protection never hurt. Okay, and then we just have to reestablish our link here. Put our little washer back on. And our little, put that back in. If you can get new ones of these, I would recommend replacing them. And if you buy your carb kits from Randakk, I believe he gives you new pins like that. Anyway, so that's how it's done. Any questions, feel free to post or ask me. I'm always here to help. Thanks. Have a good day.